Okay, good morning, everybody. How is everybody feeling? How's the coffee? The coffee might not help with how comfy these couches are. This is literally the reason why we're doing here. So, new traditions, old traditions. We're gonna, for the first time, try to start on time. So, there we go. Old traditions, you all have passed the test. You found the venue. We've been trolling people for a few years now, finding a venue that's in the underground of Canary Wharf, one of the most confusing stations. And you all managed to find us. So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. I hope you have a good day with us today. So, SREday, London Q3 2025. Let's start with a show of hands. I see a lot of new faces. Hello. Who is an actual SRE here? Who identifies as an SRE? Okay, so that's a good third of the population. Who's like SRE adjacent, but not quite SRE? So what were you guys? DevOps? Shout out loud. DevOps? Wow, advocate. Nice. Any SRE managers so that I know to not make fun of... Okay, fine. I'll go easy on you guys. I said DevOps. Who was DevOps again? Okay, any platform people? Did you just rebrand from SRE previously, or were you platforms from the start? Okay, don't answer that. That's fine. So, the reason I'm here today is because I realized I spent last decade doing this SRE/platform work, and I wanted to reflect a little bit on this. Now, like a lot of stuff changed in my life. I've got a little son. I want to be in the armchair and think about the past and the future and how things work. And I figure I would put together a talk that's actually informational for once and that somebody might find useful. My talk today is the 7 deadly traps of SRE. Oh, sorry. I think I had some working versions. Not this one, no. Not this one. There we go. 7 deadly traps of SREday, of SRE. And our story is going to be this. Imagine you are on a new SRE team. Maybe you're starting the team, they hired you, there's like this reliability energy, or maybe you're joining one of the smart people that got involved into that. The company is investing in it, there's momentum, right? We are doing things. And every time that happened to me, I really enjoyed it. But there was always this roller coaster of a ride that we bumped our heads into. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that I think are pretty universal. And this XKCD style graph with, for now, censored traps is going to be our roller coaster for today. So where do we start? There's the energy, they hired us, and we're running into the first trap. I call it the hero trap. Some people call it other things. But once you put a lot of smart people in the room and you tell them, okay, fine, we expect great things from you, you almost invariably end up with some variation of this. By the way, who knows this guy? Who watches videos? Okay, you two are great. The rest, you need to go and check this channel. It's a lot of programmers parody. So I'm glad that we have some of that on the internet. But if you start going to meetings like this, that means that you've got a lot of potential attitude, but also confidence in yourself, right? Hopefully stemming from experience and hopefully doing great things. And the reason for that is often because you started doing all-nighters, right? They joined, or you joined. You are eager to prove that this is going to go very well, and your motivation levels are pretty high for now. Maybe you're staying longer than other people, right? Maybe you are heroically debugging a bug in the middle of the night on a Saturday, and you're very proud of yourself. And for a moment, that is probably actually good. If there's 1 or 2 of you, there's no really anybody else to pick up the slack, right? So you're gonna go and do that. But over the time, as you add maybe 3rd person and 4th person and 5th person, you start to see the cracks of that, right? The night sessions are no longer that great. How do we avoid that? At least for me, what worked very well was incentivizing team players, right? A hero, by definition, has to do better than the others. It has to go further, can be a martyr. But if you incentivize teaching others and taking time to explain and document, and you don't expect a martyrdom, people tend to follow that. Another hack is to introduce on-call quickly so that people actually get a little bit of that exposure quickly and we don't create these hero traps. Who here has ever seen in real life a 10x engineer? Okay. How many have you seen? One. Okay. How many? Back in the back there? Just one? How many? Five. How many 10x engineers have you seen? Oh no, he was just stretching. That's fine. I probably, at the push, I probably saw one, but I have seen quite a few 10x teams where everybody was involved and small teams of 3 or 4 were able to achieve great things. Who has seen a 0.1x engineer? Probably all of us have seen that. Yeah, there we go. And who has seen a 10x engineer, or at least self-proclaimed, go to 0.1x engineer overnight due to burnout? Anybody experienced that firsthand as well? Yeah, there we go. Oh, that guy. Yeah, we need to talk afterwards. It's probably that. First trap, I don't know if necessarily you can avoid that. I think if you've got ambitious people in the room, this is probably a mistake that everybody does at least once. So the hero trap. A corollary to that is that if you are, okay, I said I'll go easy on you, but SRE managers here, are you on call? There you go. Yeah. If you're an SRE manager and you're not on call, you should probably rethink your choices and maybe just quit right away, because exposing people to something that you are not experiencing yourself is just not fair. Lighthearted, but this is definitely something that always needs to happen. Okay, great. So we've got the energy in there, we've got the motivation, and we're quickly running into the next trap. I call it the tooling trap. I think this one is pretty straightforward and everybody does it, right? We like buzzwords. Our managers like buzzwords. Everybody likes buzzwords. Everybody likes the word Kubernetes. By the way, I still can't spell Kubernetes even though I do it like 15 times a day. I don't know if you guys are like that too. But we go and we solve things, right? We solve things with tools. And there is no shortage of tools in this ecosystem. I assume everybody's familiar with that. Should I zoom in a little bit? Maybe a little bit more? In case you haven't seen this or you haven't seen this recently, each of these logos is like a learning curve. That's like a course that you can do a PhD in. And like this is just, now even the categories are getting a little bit ridiculous. Application definition and image build, because there were too many categories, so now it's got together. And we've got like how many of those things? 40, 50? We've got Helm and we've got KubeVirt in the same category. So each of these things has a learning curve that looks more like a mountain than an actual curve. How do we avoid that? I only have 2 pieces of advice for you. Again, set up on call early so that people are a bit hesitant to add things, and try to think of the cool factor as something that has a time to live, right? Something that is a fad by definition and is going to go away. And when it goes away and suddenly there is no more buzz about it and you're stuck with it and there's a lot of work that needs to be done if you want to get rid of it, that's your problem. And the laughter in the distance, the parties kind of fade back in the background. Think about the learning curve and don't go too shiny. I expect everybody will bump into this. And once you do, you smoothly transition into the next trap, the complexity trap, right? We started with the learning curve, but now we have all these tools. Let's over-engineer the shit out of it, right? Who's not guilty of over-engineering everything? Who's not? Oh, there you go. 2 people, 3, 4 people are not guilty of that. We should probably go and get a beer with them and learn their ways. But for the for the mortals among us, the complexity trap is real. And yeah, I apologize in advance. This is going to be a meme-heavy presentation because the pain is so real, and every time I see those. So this is again from his video. You homework, go check it out. But all of these things have cost, right? Who currently has nightmares in YAML? That's what I thought. Yeah, YAML speaks to me at night as well. There is endless supply of memes that are just so heartfelt. This is, who can guess which one is Kubernetes? I see here that my backpack is messing up the legend here. Which one is Kubernetes? Yeah, exactly. So the complexity trap is real and it will come and get you. So this is something that you have to manage, right? It's not something that you can necessarily avoid, I think. How can you minimize the damage? I tend to rely on 2 things. One is the premature optimization. This is something that tends to speak to the engineers. You go and say, oh, are we not optimizing prematurely here? Are we not introducing too much complexity? And it goes, I don't know if that would go well in your team, but it's definitely a powerful tool. Speaks, they understand that. Modern isn't inherently better. It's also a conversation that I have at least twice a week, sometimes more often. And you conceptually understand that, but then like it's so shiny, and look, it can also do this and automates that. And we forget about that. So reminding yourself that it's not inherently better is probably a good thing. Which brings us here. So we've got our first three traps. We started somewhere here. We're vaguely motivated. They promise us a nice bonus. So we went all the way up the motivation level, Jesus graph here. Over the hero trap, we did some long nights, early mornings. We proved to everybody that we're better than the others. And we ran into some troubles because suddenly now we have a team, and maybe people have lives outside of work and they actually want to go home at night. And the motivation starts slowly slipping down, right? We, at the peak, introduced a lot of tools. It was very exciting at the time. And then the complexity is starting to slowly get us down, and we're rolling down like a roller coaster. But fear not, the things get worse from here. One day, you have this realization, this stark observation that humans might be involved, right? Humans might be using that, and some problems aren't actually that technical, right? Worse than that, you can't just call everything human error, and when people have issues with your platform or your reliability tool, you start at the back of your head questioning, am I wrong with some of the things, or are they just all morons? And statistically, they probably not. You start realizing that it's actually not rocket science. We're not building a spaceship here, unfortunately. And we have to start paying attention to things like culture. And what the hell is culture, right? What does it actually mean? We throw it around a lot, but it means customs, right? It means tribal knowledge. It means like acceptable ways of doing things and solving issues, and like what seniority levels there are, and do they matter, how you speak to the other people, and all of that kind of creeps in. We're introducing all these things and we're building, and it's all exciting, and culture is like in the background just brewing. And if nobody thinks about it, it's just gonna end up being more or less random. Things like ownership. Who owns this? Who makes the decisions? Who do I call? Team APIs. The more porous they are, the more the area of whose responsibility it is and who gets called and all of that. And you start realizing that, oh shit, my shiny tools are not gonna fix this. These are actual things where I have to go and talk to humans. I have to get people in the room. I have to agree on things. It takes forever. I could spend all this time producing more YAML that I'm gonna regret the next day. Instead, I have to go and talk to people. And it's not a pleasant realization. So, we're engineers. What do we do about that? Maybe something happened now. Maybe this is what triggered this entire thinking here. Maybe we had an incident, right? Which brings us neatly into the postmortem trap. Who loves postmortems? All right, I wasn't expecting that. Who tolerates postmortems? Okay, anybody hating postmortems? It's just the same hands going up. What's going on here? Okay, if you're hating postmortems, what makes a good postmortem? Learning. There you go. Okay, we can end the presentation there. She basically nailed it. Maybe I should have basically asked what makes a bad postmortem. Postmortems are something that I think for most people we initially thought we should do, right? Something bad happened, maybe your boss wants some answers, or we want to go and make it look something official, like we're doing something, right? Most people like just slide into it without giving it too much thought. And then they're like, oh shit, this is not really great. I don't like this postmortems. We're beating the dead horse. Let's not do that. And eventually, I probably read some of this amazing blog posts, and you realize, okay, ChatGPT, you were right the entire time. And you realize that the one distinguishing factor is the learning bit, right? And if you get the learning bit, it probably doesn't matter an awful lot the entire form, how you do it, when you do it, and all of that. Just don't make it about finding a victim. Who's still finding like root cause analysis? Okay. And who is calling them postmortems blameless? Okay, so that's most people. Okay. So those who didn't race for the blameless, how do you blame a person for the root cause analysis, for the root cause? How do you do that? It wasn't me. Okay, that's fair enough. Anyway, I'm not gonna pretend to have all the answers here. I think, like I said, the learning bit is probably the most important here. I think for most teams, this kind of evolves over the time, and like getting the individuals involved to be reasonably happy with the outcomes and have something that is actually actionable is a really good goal to aim for. Half of that stuff is going to be culture stuff, again, vaguely defined, but occasionally we get a nice engineer cleaned problem that we can actually go and solve. And that brings me to the nines trap. Who loves the nines? Who's got like SLOs all over the place? Who wanted to have SLOs all over the place, but that life got in the way and you're still trying to get some, right? This is what we're told, right? This is what we're supposed to be doing. SRE, Site Reliability Engineering, I should have all these error budgets and I should have my SLOs all over the place. I should have a dashboard that's green and sometimes red, but I don't feel too bad about the red. Getting there is actually fairly tricky. And you've got enough presentations about the importance of the nines. What I wanted to say is that the nines don't matter half of the time. If you're solving the wrong problem, it doesn't matter if you're solving it 99.9999% of the time. And it also doesn't matter if your product sucks. I've seen startups that are about reliability that focus so much on this when the product doesn't actually work, which is a problem. But the main thing is, I think, to remember is this is very nice and we all want to do that. But it's also a trap in that abstracting yourself away from too far from that is very tempting. I want to have an SLO. I've got a shitty product that doesn't do what I need it to, and nobody really cares for it too much. So I'm going to set up a shitty SLO, but I've got an SLO now, and I'm going to move on with my life. So if you're bumping into this, and this is like the first time in a new team, I forgive you. You're exonerated. I would probably do it again if I was starting a new team now. But remember about those things. And remember that the nines are great. Just make sure that they are about something useful. So this is the other part of our graph now, right? Our motivation levels were pretty low. Something happened. We went and beat that dead horse. But then realized, oh shit, we can do a little bit of engineering. We can set up things that are observable. And we can have error budgets and we can demonstrate them. But then you realize that actually that only matters when the product matters. And your motivation goes a little bit back down. And on that very optimistic note, we've done our roller coaster. There are two more traps that I didn't really know where to put on this graph because they can happen in different orders. One is the big take trap. And I think this is my favorite actually because it works in both directions. You can use it as an excuse to both not do things or do too much, right? If you're small and you read the SRE books, you realize, okay, I'm going to be Google now. We've seen that all over the place. But it also works in the other direction. It works when it's like a corollary, the small tech trap, right? When we don't appreciate these things and we say, okay, we don't have the scale for that. Or the principles, they maybe don't apply to us when we're small enough for that. We're not Google, right? So I love that you can take that and do it wrong in either direction equally well. So I call it a big tech trap, and I think you can bump into that wherever you want here. You can start with that. You can do it towards the end of the graph as well. And the other one is the reactive trap, right? Once you're low on the motivation down here, it's very easy to just fall into this, okay, fine, it's all shit. Actually, it's probably fine. I just get used to that. Stuff's on fire, but I'm a little bit disillusioned. Things are going to happen. I'm just whacking them all, and I'm doing ops with extra steps, but I haven't updated my LinkedIn because SRE still looks better, right? A lot of people do that. A lot of people fall into that, and many teams fall into that at least temporarily. What can we do about that? There's two things that I think make the most difference. One is if you do give your engineers a chance to pay some of that tech debt, even if it's 10% of the time, but like every period, however you run the team, every period there is dedicated time to do that. Even if it takes a long time, they can actually fix some of that. And turns out they really like fixing stuff. If you don't do that, you're just going to fuel this fire here. And the other thing is giving people the opportunity to feel powerful and simplifying the stack is probably the most satisfying thing you can do to do that, right? The feelings of power, writing code, fixing code, understanding code, refactoring, removing old code. Love that. So if you get this two, you're probably going to be okay. Running out of time. So the message I actually want you to go home with, don't go home, stay, is don't give up. We all make mistakes, and it does get better, marginally, over the time. And an example of making mistakes, who here noticed that I had 8 points instead of 7? Okay, 3 people, you're my people. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So, SREday today, we're going to have a lot of fun. If you like traveling, we do a lot of locations. I still can't believe how we're managing to pull that off. We're doing London, San Francisco, New York, Amsterdam, Paris, Cologne, Lisbon. We're doing Chennai and Campinas this year for the first time. And we've got a few more in the works. If you are ever interested and you know somebody who might be interested in hosting us, you've got a nice office you want to show off, and maybe you want to host a conference, please do let us know, especially in these 2 locations in Tokyo and Singapore. We're still looking. We're going to be industry screens today. This is our LinkedIn page. Please do give us a follow. I know it sounds cringe, but it does help spreading the word about us. We're posting about every talk on our Alex here will be posting about every talk. So if you're ever trying to find who gave a talk and get a link, please do that. And please do tag us. And big shout out to our sponsors. A round of applause for Castilla and Commodore, Imply and Shipfox. Without these guys, we wouldn't be able to do that, and we wouldn't be able to have a fun day together. And lastly, if you like QR codes, this is my LinkedIn. I do a lot of runs like this, so if this is your thing, please, let's get in touch. I wrote a book, if you like books, and I've got a podcast, in case that's your thing. So with that, thank you very much. We're going to have 2 more keynotes now, and then we're going to take a coffee break and have more sessions later on. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming.